If you ever talk to a Saints Row fan, they'll fall into one of two categories. The first will celebrate the first two games as the competitor to the Grand Theft Auto series that kept the franchise on its toes with a bit of charm and humour thrown in. The other will tell you about the time they climbed a space shuttle to the tune of I Don't Wanna Miss a Thing and dived headfirst through a crashing jumbo jet in Saints Row 3. Sorry, Saints Row the 3rd, and Saints Row 4. Unfortunately, the new Saints Row reboot will satiate neither of these fan bases, nor does it offer anything to series newcomers. Saints Row feels like a throwback to a bygone era, but not in a good way. The game is structured pretty much identically to its original counterparts. Main story missions focused on certain characters coincide with side missions and challenges to help boost XP and levels. Missions generally include driving to locations, shooting at the baddies, destroying some stuff, and walking slowly around a room. There's no flexibility to do things in a number of ways, or take an approach from different angles. It's just go to the marker, do what you're told, rinse and repeat. We've been here so many times before, and video games have moved on from this type of quest design. Look at Breath of the Wild, Ghost of Tsushima, Elden Ring, and so many others. The story is pretty rote and does little to engage the player either. You are one of a small team of former law-breaking buddies seeking to form a new empire of crime after abandoning the various factions that control the city of Santo Alesso. At least we have to assume these four are buddies. Without any backstory or knowledge of who these characters are, it's very difficult to care about any of them. The main character, in fairness, can be amusing at times, especially early on when they're failing to impress their boss at the military NGO.
Get your hands in the air! I caught him!
It's a shame this story thread is lost so quickly, as seeing a protagonist embarrassing themselves but still somehow succeeding is an interesting premise, and one certainly more endearing than what we get here. Graphically, the game looks like something from the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation. Characters are stiff and awkward. Textures look flat and lack vibrancy. The open world lacks life and feels bland and uninteresting to look at. Volition seems to have tried to emulate the look and feel of the previous games, but with those it always felt as if this was the limit of what the consoles could do visually. It's not clear how exactly the game came to look this way, whether it's simply a lack of polish or an intended decision on the part of the developer. But Saints Row is a game that looked out of date 10 years ago, let alone now. The sound is generally not great, with mixing problems leading to conversations that are often lost underneath backing music or even just general atmospheric noise. Which is a shame because the voice performances are genuinely not bad.
You're not leaving here unless we get what we want.
And there are moments when hearing what the characters are saying would have been nice. The radio stations are good though, with a wide selection of decent songs from genres ranging from pop and EDM to classical and death metal, which due to copyright reasons we've replaced here with some stock audio. And while you're enjoying whatever is going on here, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to make sure you're notified whenever GINX uploads a new video. Gunplay in Saints Row can best be described as meh. The weapons vary in their sense of impact, with shotguns and explosive weapons particularly feeling pretty impactful. However, lighter weapons like pistols and SMGs just feel off, with bullets having little weight and shooting sounding washy and underwhelming. The auto-aim is also too generous. Pressing the left trigger not only points your weapon at the nearest enemy, but stays on them afterwards, making combat fairly simplistic. And there's little of the ridiculous weaponry that was such a staple of the previous game. No gun that summons sharks, no dubstep-based armaments, and no, well, this. And to top it all, the game is littered with bugs and issues. Aside from the already mentioned sound problems, there's a distinct lack of polish everywhere. Enemies disappear during the Doom-style glory kills. NPCs get stuck in walls and magically whip into cars. Even UI text is missing with templates still left in place. Playing on a high-end PC with settings on medium, we still encounter significant frame rate drops during intense action sections, and there are constant texture pops and weird-looking animations. The game had already received one delay from earlier in the year, but evidently that still wasn't enough time to polish the game properly. Though to be honest, there's not a lot they could have done to fix some of the fundamental problems here, even if they had. It's not all bad. There are some elements of fun to be had when the game embraces its Saints Row-ness. Riding on a convoy through a sandstorm, jumping from car to car, taking out motorbikes on a turret, and barely escaping exploding trucks is as fun and ridiculous as ever. As with the previous games, the character customization is fun and thorough, with some excellent new additions to account for disabilities in vitiligo. The main character does have some funny moments, even if their counterparts are all one-note stereotypes with little to no personality, other than being young and smug. Saints Row just doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. A serious story of 4 friends building something and working together, or a silly cartoon romp of explosions and loud noises. And it's full of missed opportunities to do either. It's not clear who the 2022 reboot of Saints Row is actually supposed to be for. Newcomers to the series will find a shallow experience with outdated graphics and gameplay. For fans of the series, they'll find none of the charm, personality, or chaos of the original games. You might find some enjoyment here when the action ramps up, but ultimately it's not the return that the 3rd Street Saints deserve. It's ugly, it's buggy, and ultimately it's just plain boring.